What it do, YouTube? It's your boy Amb, aka Ambitious. And I told you I'm gonna bring that heat, and here it comes. This video is all about step 2. I wanna talk about my experience with step 2, how I studied for step 2, and how you can be successful for step 2. So to begin, before we get into all that, I'm gonna introduce myself. I'm Abraham Banco. I'm a 4th year medical student from Houston, Texas. Shout out to the H. I graduated in May, and I'm applying into orthopedic surgery this application cycle. So step 2, back in the day, and I'm gonna say back in the day because we know we just had that recent change to step 1 where it's pass fail. Some people may have considered step 2 not that serious of a test. I know for people that are doing super competitive specialties, if you scored well on step 1, some people would advise you not to take step 2 until after interview season. Others would say that as long as you score around your step 1 score, that you were good. I think at least step 2 was an opportunity for people who didn't do as well as they liked on step 1 to redeem themselves. However, we can't change what we can't change. I'm glad that they addressed the monster that step 1 had become. Them offers student well-being. However, we do understand that something has to be the objective measure, and more than likely it's going to turn into step 2. So beginning with my experience with step 2, I studied for step 2 starting with my last 2 rotations of 3rd year. We had 4 weeks on emergency medicine and 4 weeks on neurology. Our emergency medicine clerkship is pass-fail, so at that point, I had just reset UWorld and tried to do all of UWorld again during the last two blocks. So technically I studied for about 8 weeks, but I only took like 10 days of dedicated, which was the period between our 3rd and 4th year to like really study for step 2 because I had a tight timeline with the weight rotations and my sub-I and all of that other good jazz. So I set high expectations for myself all the time, and my goal on step 2 was to score 260 plus. Just being transparent here, I ended up scoring a 251, which is a great score, but it wasn't necessarily what I wanted. However, I think that I was able to at least do well due to the process that I followed. So you can take what I say with a grain of salt, you know what I'm saying? If I don't have the 270 that you're looking for, you can, I guess, change to another video. But I think ultimately, the keys that I talk about for the rest of the video can help you score as well as you aim to score on step 2. So let's get right into how I study. So the first thing I want to talk about is resources. So we know on step 1 we have UFAPs, UWorld First Aid, Pathoma, Sketchy, and like a tried and true method that's a lot of people have used year after year after year. The thing about step 2 is there's really no like formula that I found where like you plug and play, jump on the train, do what they do, and jump off. So that leaves students kind of confused on what resources to use and how to use them. You have master the boards, you have step up to medicine, you have first aid, step 2 CK. There's so many resources just like step 1. And my approach was just keep it simple. So what I ended up doing was I just studied how I studied for all of my clerkships and continued that into step 2. So before I get into the specifics of how I did that, I just want to talk about like the structure of step 2 and why I believe that it's a lot easier to do well on step 2 than it was on step 1. To begin, you have been practicing for step 2 legitimately all year. Think about all the shelf exams you've taken before you take step 2. Each shelf has about 100 questions, and those shelf questions are legitimately old step 2 questions and bad step 2 questions, or questions that didn't like meet all the check marks to make it on step 2. So every time that you study for a shelf, you are inherently studying for step 2 throughout the year. And I think that's why, a lot of people are able to do better on step 2 because you've been practicing for so long, when that wasn't necessarily the case in step 1. So with that being said, I think the most important thing you could do to do well on step 2 is study your butt off for all of your clerkships and study your butt off for all of your shelves. If you're trying to figure out how you can do well on your 3rd year, you're trying to figure out how to honor all your shelves, check out my video on the 3 pillars of excellence where we talk about availability, affability, and ability. And in that video, I talk about the ability portion, which is like how you study in 3rd year and what resources I used as I went through 3rd year to do the best that I could on my shelves. So with that being said, I didn't really want to like shake things up too drastically when I got into step 2 studying. My goal during those last 2 rotations, because after I finished surgery, I had inherently already finished all of UWorld. So I reset UWorld, and my goal was just to run through all the questions again. You know, like having had studied as hard as I studied throughout third year, I felt pretty confident with the material, and it was just about bringing back, you know what I'm saying, those things I hadn't seen in a couple of months, like from psych and from what else, like peds and OB, those kind of things. And like just like step 1, the process is really the same. You know, when I got into dedicated or when I got into step 2 prep, I was all random, all timed, blocks of 40, just trying to make sure that my mind can remember everything at one point. In addition to doing my blocks of questions, and I was doing about 90 a day, I was doing my, you know, my due cards on Anki, and I was also making cards, new cards on like the subjects that like UWorld would add throughout the year, because they love adding questions. And that's really about it. I would do my like Anki cards during the day, like in clinic when it was slow. I would get home, do as many questions as I can. And by the time third year was finished, I was just about like 90% done with UWorld, and starting it dedicated, I just went ahead and finished it, redid my wrongs, and then that last couple, like 10 days, I did all the practice exams that were available to me. All the MBMEs, UWorld 1, UWorld 2, and the free 120. And by the time I took the exam, I felt pretty confident, you know what I mean? Like, okay, well, I've seen this material throughout the whole year. I've done well on all of my shelves, you know, so I know that I can regurgitate that information. I know that I can apply that information. I was doing well on UWorld, so like at this point, it's like, let's, you know, see what's popping. You're not gonna know everything on step 2, you know what I mean? Like they throw some super left field questions, and a lot of times like the way the questions are set up, it seems like 2 or 3 answers that could be correct. But when you've been practicing all year and you get like your indications down, and you get like, okay, if I see this, I must do that, then I think you'll be in pretty good shape to do well. I know for me, the only really outside resource I used was Amboss. And I was doing like a set of 40 like a couple of times a week just to see some new questions. And I also did all the biostats questions because I suck at biostats, and I needed to make sure that like, okay, like let me have a fighting chance this time, because the biostats on step 2 is even more than step 1, so I didn't want to get screwed. But other than that, I didn't get too cute with resources, you know what I mean? Like I didn't use first aid all throughout the year. I didn't use step up to medicine. I didn't use you know, master the board. So I wasn't gonna just use new things during dedicated, because I've been doing well all year, and now is not the time to get cute. So for those watching this video who didn't go through third year clerkships, let's say you're IMG, or let's say you didn't do as well as you'd like to on your clerkships, I think ultimately, I think the concept can still help you, you know, perform as best as you can on step 2. And that's basically like, you gotta see the material enough times so it like makes sense. You see what I'm saying? And you know, figure out what subject matters you're weak at, right? And then at that point, like do as many of those questions as you can, you feel me? Like I don't, like if you look at my 3 pillars of excellence, you know what I mean? By the time I took step 2, in addition to all the step 2 stuff and the step 2 practice exams and the step 2 MBMEs, like I had taken every single MBME from, you know what I mean, every single clerkship. I had done all the little resources from every single clerkship. So by the time I took step 2 CK, I've seen over literally 10,000 questions, you know what I mean? And ultimately, even though I didn't reach my goal, because I had studied as hard as I could, I ended up still doing well. You see what I'm saying? So don't feel like just because you didn't kill third year or haven't been through third year that you can't do well as well. Figure out which areas you're weak in, and then supplement those areas with the resources that are available in said clerkships. To wrap up this video, there's nothing too cute about step 2. I'm sorry that I don't have any like magic tricks, but the reality of it is, if you work your butt off during third year, you'll be in a good position to crush step 2. And hopefully, you know, with step 1 becoming pass-fail, this test will allow you to shine in a way that you may have not even been able to do during step 1, because the averages are much higher than step 1, so it gives you the ability to shine like no other. Anywho, I hope this video helps somebody. If you have any questions, hit me in the comments below. Hit me in my social medias. I try to respond to everybody that I can. Go ahead and share this video. Go ahead and like this video. Subscribe so you don't miss new content. And I wish everyone the best. It's Ambitious Abe checking out. Stay humble, stay hungry. Let's get it.